Hello everybody out there watching on YouTube once again on this Thanksgiving Day. It's 3 p.m. Eastern Time when you should be watching this. If you're watching it later, why didn't you watch it at 3 p.m.? But whatever. This is the first race of the NNSCRA Domino's NXT series. I am Levi McIntyre, the voice of the NNSCRA Domino's NXT series, here to welcome you to the Daytona 300 at Daytona International Speedway as part of probably the biggest day of racing for this entire season of series. Because we had the Truck Series race for the Amazon Prime Truck Series at noon today. That was a pretty solid event. Now we're in the second of three events, the Daytona 300, but stick around for 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time tonight for the Daytona 500 over in the big boys, the Marvel Studios Cup Series. But I am not alone. For the first time, and I have no idea how long, but for the first time in a long time, and a first-time guest, I would like to welcome you for the first time in the co-commentary booth. Please welcome longtime driver on this channel, William Brock.
Sup, people?
What is up with you, buddy? How you been?
Well, I've been pretty good. It's good being here, co-commentating with you for the first time, and hopefully we'll have a good race.
Indeed, and also not to mention, this guy has been in the big series for a long time, and while luck hasn't been the best, perhaps nowadays in a lower series, we'll see how it goes. It's almost like a Cup Series going down to the lower series situation, like Elliott Sadler. But you never know. There's a lot of legendary drivers in this series, like Chris Washer, Zach Rogers, Peachy London, Johnny Gardner, among so many others, along with a lot of newcomers. And that's why we have the two extra series to give newer people an opportunity to perform on this channel in the NR 2003 series. But if the truck race was any indication for what is to come for this race, we might be in for a pretty special one here as well. But keep in mind, when we get to the Daytona 500 later today, the lap's going to be doubled of what we have had today. So far, truck race and Domino's NXT are going to be 20 lappers. Daytona 500 will be a 40 lapper, and that's going to be insane. But nonetheless, let's take a look at the starting lineup as we have gone through the entry list for this season to kind of get caught up on who signed up for what. Top 10 in the lineup. Well, actually, first let's take a look at this last row. Charles Jackson, Kyle Keith, two legendary drivers in their own right, going to have to start in the back. Top 10, Ryan Brommer on the pole with Sean Henley right next to him in second. Row 2, Sky Commons, John Andrews. Row 3, William Brock, Jackie Tang. Row 4, Fury Gamington, Ben Crouch. And then row 5, Ty Dent and Bo Case. Well, without further ado, let's get the command to fire engines for the Daytona 300.
Drivers, start your engines!
And cars rolling out on the racetrack for their one pace lap, all 30 drivers. So a reminder, with the Amazon Prime Truck Series field being 30 cars, this field being 30, and then Marvel Studios Cup with 40, that's a total of 100 drivers racing for all three series this season, which is unbelievable. I think that's the most we're ever going to have on this channel. But nonetheless, yeah, with how Daytona is all about momentum, draft, and avoiding the big one if it even happens. We did have a mini big one earlier today in the Amazon Prime Truck Series race that did take out about 9 drivers. But with how these cars seem to be a bit slower than trucks, I don't know if we'll see that or not. William, do you have any expectations for this race?
I'm definitely going to be expecting the big one. I mean, the way cars run around here at Daytona, I mean, I would not be surprised if somebody ends up going 4 wide.
Yeah, we did see a couple four wide incidents take place during the truck race. One of them was what resulted in the mini big one. Second one, they somehow saved it. Could we see something like that today in this race? Perhaps. But I feel like whenever this race gets into a longer run, if it's green the whole way through, it's going to get intense. But the pace car in the pit road, and it's time to boogity, 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 go racing again.
Well, you've always managed to do that better than Darrell Waltrip.
Well, thank you.
Well, you can see that 6 car got a really good run on the start. Kind of pulled away a little bit, but a really good run. And there goes number 23 on the inside of number 6. And we got 3 wide on the second, one row deep. Almost 2 rows deep, actually. And the 21 will lead that lap. Oh, 23, I'm sorry.
Sean Henley, who started second, leads the first lap here in the the Daytona 300. And running second, all of a sudden, ironically, is William Brock, and he's got help from Fury Gamington behind him, who in turn has help from Ashland Boyd in the 20. But Ashland gonna leave the 00 up high and try and block the lower lanes, but I don't think he's gonna block the bottom, as here comes the 44 of Christopher Hathaway.
And there you can see most of the back is 3 wide.
Yeah, they're going 3 wide, and they're keeping it rather clean back there, whereas what we saw early on in the truck race, they attempted 4 wide, and it backfired. So we're already off to a better start in this race than what we've seen earlier in the day. But nonetheless, drivers are already trying to do all they can to get up here to the front, as here comes the 34 of David Vickers, don't question the name, running up here in third with help from Logan Cloud in the 62 car. And as I'm looking around to see how other drivers are handling themselves, Charles Jackson, who started near the back, already up here to midfield. And I don't know where Kyle Keith is, the guy. Oh, there he is. I see him still a little bit in the back, but he's moved up a few rows. But meanwhile, back up here at the front, it is still Sean Henley in the lead, but he's got David Vickers behind him. But Vickers pulls out of line and is going to get the run on the inside to take the lead away from the 23 car.
Yeah, Sean Henley, he's done good leading the first couple of laps of this race, but now somebody else is taking hold.
Still side by side, though, so it's not clear-cut just yet. And then you got Joe Gibbs' teammates side by side. You got the 19 of John Andrews next to Ashland Boyd in the 20. And I see the 22 of JT Bryant coming up into the picture, along with Charles Jackson. Now, JT Bryant's a former winner here in the Daytona 500 back in the old Walmart Cup Series days, so he knows what it's like to go to victory lane here at Daytona. Can he do it again, as he's second in line on the inside behind John Andrews, who now takes the race lead away?
And I'd also like to mention, like myself, JT Bryant is also a good leader.
Indeed. Charles Jackson trying to go to the bottom to get some run going, but he left too much space, as here comes the 9 of Johnny Gardner, former Marvel Studios Cup Series driver, this season deciding to take a step down to go to a lower series and help younger drivers, which is very big of him. Same with a lot of other drivers who was in the Marvel Studios Cup Series last season, like William Brock, Charles Jackson, Zach Rogers, among others. And speaking of Rogers, there he is in the 3 car right next to teammate Pichu London, who was also in the Marvel Cup last season. Ryan Brommer, same thing, who was on the pole, and now he's trying to make his way back up here to the front. But back up here at the front, it is still all John Andrews right now, as we've got less than 15 to go in the Daytona 300.
Yeah, but it looks like J.G. Bryant might be thinking about going up on the inside. But never mind, here comes that 9 car, along with the 6, and 3 wide for second.
Yeah, 3 wide for second. Ryan Brommer in the 6, Johnny Gardner in the 9, and J.T. Bryant in the 22. And here also comes the 48 of Jonathan Wong. And Wong, this is the first time I've ever seen him race on this channel, so I don't know that much about him, so I'm curious to know what his talents are like. But he's about to get challenged by the 51 of Caleb Kilburn, another newcomer on this channel, already trying to impress. As I see a couple of stragglers in the back, the 12 of Bo Case is by himself, and then the 1 of Billy Bishop. Both are fairly out of the pack, but it... Oh, there's a crash!
Hey,
David Vickers is around! And whoa, how did the 1 of Billy Bishop avoid that? But there's still some wrecking going on between Zach Moses and Charles Jackson. The 7 just ran the 16 up into the wall. Caution comes out, and they're coming back to the line, and it's John Andrews still with the race lead, and Caleb Kilburn in second.
Well, that was an interesting way to Brad.
Yeah, it took only 1 lap for a caution to come out in the truck race. Here it took about 7 to get the caution to come out. But nonetheless, it was still a small crash, but it will be enough to cause a couple of cars to be off the pace and not up to speed, and it might cause some problems for drivers if this stays green the rest of the way. But speaking of the caution, we're going to take a quick break and take a look at the replay of what brought the caution out for the first time today in the Domino's NXT Series Daytona 300 at Daytona. Well, here's a look at what happened. Watch the 7 of Zach Moses. It looks like as if the 21 and the 39, it looks like right there, are trying to make it 4 wide, and it appears like the 7 was trying to give them room, but ran right up into both Charles Jackson and David Vickers. Charles Jackson comes up, collects David Vickers, and the 44 of Christopher Hathaway, I believe that is? Yes, indeed. Also got a piece of this wreck, but look at Billy Bishop in the 1 car. I don't know how in the world he didn't run right over the 34 of David Vickers. But that was impressive. But look at the wreck continuing between the 7 and the 16. Almost like as if the 7 didn't like the fact the 16 was up there, even though he should have clearly seen him up on the outside lane. I don't know why the 7 would be upset at the 16 to run him completely into the wall all the way through turns 3 and 4, but sounds like a rivalry brewing there between these two drivers.
Yeah, it looks like there might be some bad blood boiling up between these two, but I guess we'll have to wait in future races, see what develops.
Indeed. But that was a look at the caution. We're going to go ahead and take you to the restart here at Daytona. Well, after that multi-car accident, nobody's out of the race. All 30 drivers are still on the racetrack, which is good. But when we get back to green, it'll be 9 laps to go. So there's still plenty of time for drivers to make some magic happen. But John Andrews is your race leader. 2nd is Caleb Kilburn. 3rd, Jonathan Wong. 4th is Vince Almarigo. 5th, Zach Rogers. 6th, Larry Hagan. 7th, Kyler Boggs. 8th, Fury Gamington. 9th, Sky Commons. 10th, Johnny Gardner. 11th, Ben Crouch. 12th, Ryan Brommer. 13th, Jackie Tang. 14th is JT Bryant. 15th, Ty Dent. 16th, Sean Henley. 17th, Pichu London. 18th, Kyle Keith. 19th, Ashland Boyd. 20th, Chris Washer. 21st, Logan Cloud. 22nd, William Brock. 23rd, Bo Case. 24th, Jack Emery, I believe. 25th is John Cittadino. 26th is Christopher Hathaway. 27th, Billy Bishop. 28th, David Vickers. 29th, Zach Moses. 30th, Charles Jackson. But we're getting ready to come off of turn 4 to get back to green flag racing and hope we can stay green for the rest of the race. And with it being single file on this restart, I think we might get away with green flag throughout the rest of the race, but you never know. The big one could strike as the pace car pulls into pit road, and we are back green here at Daytona.
And funny thing that you mentioned about it possibly staying, hoping it stays green most of the rest of the race. I mean, they do have to worry about possible lap traffic. You know, those cars that wrecked earlier.
Yeah, those 3 cars back there, Vickers, Jackson, and Moses, they could be off the pace. I don't know, let's go back here and watch those 3. Well, you can definitely tell that the 34 and the 16, it looks like they're going to be the ones pretty much off the pace. The 7, it looks like he's still up to speed. After all, he just only got some cosmetic damage. But yeah, the 16 and the 34 are definitely the 2 questionable ones. Even though it looks like the 16 is still keeping up same miles per hour rating as the rest of the field. Just a matter of being stuck in the back. But yeah, David Vickers a few miles per hour slower than the rest of the field. But back up here at the front, battle for the lead. Caleb Kilburn led at the line. But here comes 2 cars. You got Larry Hagan and Vince Almerigo 3 wide for the lead. But I think Larry Hagan's going to get the advantage with not only help from Zach Rogers, but being on the inside, which is the faster way around this racetrack.
And we definitely got a car shuffling around trying to get up to the top. Well, let's hope nobody goes 4 wide.
And so far, they're doing a good job at not going 4 wide. It's been pretty much double the 3 wide all race long so far. But Larry Hagan right now holds the lead. But here comes Kyler Boggs in the 98 up to 3rd with help from Fury Gamington in the 00. Couple of Fords trying to work their way up here. As right now it's Toyota versus Chevy. As here comes Almerigo in that 18 Subway Toyota. Now to the front with literally no drafting help. And now is going to pull up in front of the 52, but the 52 going to do a crossover. Interesting move for Larry Hagan, and it looks like he's going to retake that spot.
Then again, and I think here comes the 60 for 3rd, and possibly 2nd.
Yeah, the 60 of Jackie Tang, who is a veteran of the NR community, who has raced in numerous series, but he's here right now running 2nd, trying to take the lead from Larry Hagan. And here comes JT Bryant, one of the masters of Daytona, up to 2nd with help from Kyle Keith in that 42 HendrickCars.com Chevy, who in turn has help from Chris Washer and also the 21 of Pichu London. There's a lot of drivers trying to work their way up here, and I don't see the 16 of Charles Jackson up here anymore. In fact, a couple of cars have fallen out of the draft. 16, yeah, it looks like he's still going to be off the pace. Same with the 34 of David Vickers. But it looks like the 44 of Christopher Hathaway and Bo Case in the 12 just lost the draft. Same with Billy Bishop in the 1, although he's sort of at the tail end of the pack, right behind William Brock in the 11, and William Brock trying to catch back up there. Luckily, he's still within reach, so he's not all the way done for, as they are 3 wide for about 7, 8 rows deep. And now a new lead change. The 21 of Pichu London has the spot, but his teammate, Logan Cloud, trying to take it, but Ashland Boyd leading the charge on the inside, making it 3 wide.
3 wide. That 20 will definitely get it, with help from the number 2.
The 2 of Ty Dent pushing Ashland Boyd to the front, but John Cittadino, who got sideways in that crash earlier, up here in the top 5, and here's the 88 of Ben Crouch, who we haven't really talked about all race long. Same with the 33 of John Emery, I should say, in the 33 car, trying to get up there, as it's RCR Junior, or actually, no, it's RCR Junior, Junior in that inside lane, but now Ty Dent leaves the inside open for the 88 of Ben Crouch to take the lead for himself. And when we get to the line, it'll be 3 laps to go. We're nearing the end of this event. And somehow Billy Bishop and William Brock have managed to get back into the pack and are in the action for not only position, but for potentially the win.
Well, that's, well, potential win, to potentially win, that is, if they can get up there before the final lap.
And with how these cars have been shuffling, we could see anything happen in this race. And now we got a new leader, John Emery, in that 33 car. And now Johnny Gardner trying to take the spot for himself. But here comes Zach Moses in the 7, who kind of caused that caution to come out earlier. He's all of a sudden up here at the front of the field. Amidst some controversy, he's trying to win his first race of his career in this series, but he leaves the bottom open for pole sitter Ryan Brommer to try and take the lead back. 2 to go at Daytona.
Yep, and there comes that number 6 with help from the number 3.
Who in turn is getting help from the 48 of Jonathan Wong. Sean Henley, who led early on, he's the 4th car in line on the inside. And now the top 3 go up, but the 48 of Jonathan Wong trying to break that draft apart. But it doesn't look like it's going to pay off, as here comes the 23 of Henley to try and take second as Brommer shuts the door on Henley for the lead, leaving room for Wong to get back to the inside in front of the 11 of William Brock. But Ryan Brommer has that top spot for now, but Sean Henley breaks that draft apart. To the inside he goes as the white flag is out in the Daytona 300. I want to say Pepsi 300 so badly. But nonetheless, the 23 up to the front, and Jonathan Wong right behind him. But here comes a couple other contenders, Caleb Kilburn and the 19 of John Andrews, with help from the 18 of Vince Almerigo. Cars trying to find which lane to go to get momentum. But right now the 23 holding the 48 at bay and has a pretty big gap between himself and now second place. The 19 of John Andrews trying to make something work, but I don't think he's going to have enough time to get to the lead. Coming out of turn number 4 for the final time, early leader of this race, Sean Henley wins the Daytona 300 to open up the Domino's NXT series at Daytona.
Sean Henley led the green flag and the checker flag. Checker flag is the most important lap to lead, and he led it here today.
Indeed he did. One of the all-time greats in the NR community finally gets a win on this channel after all this time. And he wins at the biggest track of them all, the most important track of them all, I should say, Daytona. So congratulations to that number 23 Chevy for GMS Racing. But let's look at the rest of the results. John Andrews had a full head of steam on that last lap, but just didn't have quite the momentum to make a move on the last lap for the win, but still comes through with a second place finish. Jackie Tang finishing out in the 3rd position. JT Bryan with a solid performance in 4th, and then Caleb Kilburn. Wow, look at that. He had a photo finish for the 4th spot between JT Bryan and Caleb Kilburn. Pretty much tied right there almost, but the advantage went to JT. But Vince Almerigo with a great run in the 6th position. Pole sitter Ryan Brommer still should be proud of a good 7th place run. Jonathan Wong in 8th. Billy Bishop, who was last in the big pack of cars for a little while, managed to come back to get a top 10 in 9th. And then Larry Hagan in 10th. Rest of the top 20 was Sky Commons, Logan Cloud, William Brock, Fury Gamington, Zach Rogers, Kyle Keith, Chris Washer, Zach Moses, Kyler Boggs, John Cittadino. Then the rest of the field was Johnny Gardner, Ben Crouch, Ty Dent, Ashlyn Boyd, Pichu London, John Emery, Bo Case, Christopher Hathaway, Charles Jackson, and David Vickers. So that does it for our coverage for the Domino's NXT race here at Daytona, but stick around in a few hours because the Daytona 500 for the Marvel Studios Cup Series is coming up next. But before I go away, I want to thank William Brock for stopping by the booth today.
Well, thank you very much. It was definitely a pleasure commentating with you for the first time, and I hope I get to do it again in the future.
Perhaps. But nonetheless, thank you guys for watching. But before we go, here are your final results and point standings heading into the next race of this series. But until I see you in a few hours, this is Levi McIntyre, signing off.